Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre. I'm here with Professor James Richardson. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Like I said, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Yeah,
Hold
just
up. I have to point out there's an addition to the display. That's the
yeah.
Telly Award there for I was gonna get the statue too, but I thought that was pushing it a little
They are
bit.
beautiful. I have This is what they look like. Uh yeah, they're nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
I should get one. I should get one. All right, we'll talk afterwards.
yeah, but that was so that Telly Award is the gold, the highest award for our new documentary called American Expendables, out now on Fandango at home, Amazon Prime, and then in a few months it'll rotate onto Tubi and Prime for free. So
I gotta ask you a question. Would it make me a real dick if I kind of like required my students in like one of my media classes to watch it?
well,
Yeah, it's
it's only 199 for the SD version, but I tell you what, if you waited till it was free and then
okay.
threw it as an optional thing. Hey,
That's actually what I did for VHS Massacre 2, which is on Tubi, still on Tubi. I actually required it for when we were talking in my media production class about independent film. So I was easily able to slide that in there uh, and give a little bit of credibility to myself amongst my students. It was like, oh snap, he's actually in this. It was like, yeah, yeah. We do a section on creating music videos, like how we use a lot of the newer cameras, iPhones and stuff like that. And I actually threw my demo in. So I really kind of was messing with my students in terms of like my background. It was like he does documentaries, he does hip hop at the time, whatever. It's
well, yeah, but I think it's good to for our students to think of you as a three-dimensional human being rather than just like the teacher. But no, I mean, I
I,
think that's
I think
totally
I blew that with the I think I blew that
with the
with the
backdrop.
with the Thor hammer.
You got some great stuff. You got Thor's hammer, and that comes out, or
Oh
you,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hold on.
and only you can lift it. Nice.
And this is heavy as hell.
Wow.
If you hit somebody with this is like real
That's
metal.
like a home invasion defense kit.
Oh, absolutely.
I bet, it'd be hilarious. You could actually do it now. Is like this is something like Elon Musk would do. Put a a fingerprint reader on it and bolt it to a cocktail table, like through the
Yeah.
floor, and then only you could pick it up by your thumbprint would unlock it. That'd be
I don't think
amazing.
my wife I don't think my wife would be too happy about me putting putting that in the house,
Oh, that would
You
be so
know.
cool.
Yeah, it
Um,
would be. So
yeah, you got Black Panther mask, Thanos glove, Iron Man.
Iron
Great
Man's
stuff.
helmet. I got the Punisher helmet when he was that I have displayed in the other room along with Captain America's shield. Uh I'm thinking about putting that in the other. I have another like setup that I'm gonna basically kind of kit out when I upgrade the Mac that I have in there. But that's a whole nother story. My wife
Hmm.
doesn't know this yet, so
Yeah, with my tech, I'm still rocking the Mac Mini, and it's
same
so
here.
far so good. I think I bought it like it was terrible during that COVID. My computer was so bad, and I was broke. But this Mac Mini was great, man. I went on the payment plan. It was like, $50 a month or something. Paid it off in no
Yeah,
time.
I,
Um,
the Mac Mini I have in the other room is from 2012, and it still rocks for the most part. Like I can't do any like really serious editing over like 1080p 60. If I tried to do 4K, then I'm just going to be there for a while,
yeah.
but you know everything else it works fine. I use it for like meetings and like interviews. I was going to do this here in the other room, but I had to show you the Telly
The
Award
Wall of
thing.
Fame. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm really glad. I'm so glad I'm so glad you participated in the documentary. And I really think the our collaborations are kind of hilarious because like I remember I was freaking out over VHS Massacre 2, and we we always say the same phrase, but I was like, this is shit. This is shit. No one's gonna like it. And I remember you kind of gave me a pep talk. It's like it, you're kind of like, why are you stressing about this? It's just like it's good. It's solid work. I think Izzy was on the way. I had a baby on the way. It was like you have a lot of a lot of other things to worry about. This is not one of them. This is fine.
You're an excellent filmmaker, and you have good ideas. So for you to basically, you're hard on your stuff to just about anybody else I know. You're just like I remember looking at the rough cut, and you were just like, I'm embarrassed to show this to you. This is just shit. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? This is solid work. If you want to tighten it up here and there, that's another thing. But you're just like, this is just shit. This is just garbage. Why am I even doing this?
The inverse thing happened on American Expendables. Well, first of all, to bring the audience back, okay, so American Expendables, it's a documentary about direct video action stars like Bolo Yeung, Billy Blanks, Cynthia Rothrock. And I remember years ago, the first version of the project kind of died. But I remember, hey, I was like, hey, James, do you want to be part of this? And we started watching through the films, and you're like, remember you said something like, Tom, I love martial arts films, but these are not like the cream of the crop here. And then that project died. But then I think years later, I had a better angle on it, because it wasn't that these were the best martial arts films ever created, but some of the individual people in them were exceptional. And I think it was more about that overall movement, the direct-to-video action, low-budget action martial arts film movement that had some profoundness, But
I mean, because the martial artists who were in that were all legit, especially Billy Blanks. I was a big Billy Blanks. I know everyone knows him from the Taibo stuff and stuff. Billy Blanks was legit, is legit. And I don't know if you've seen him now. He's like, like 70 something. He has to be like in his late 60s, maybe 70s.
Yep.
Yo, he still is ripped,
He was still doing you sent me a link, and he was still doing martial arts classes and stuff like that, still teaching. You sent me this video, and you're like, Tom, I don't think there's any usable stuff. I did it. I think it sucks. So
the movies weren't good. The movies were the plots of them were, tenuous at best. Ultimately, even though you crap on the work initially, at the very end, it all comes together, and it's like, holy crap, this was really good. And you're fun to work with. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your keister, but yeah, it's good collaboration.
Yeah, thanks, man. I consider you a really good friend, so I appreciate that. But what I was gonna say is the video that you sent me, in the video, you're like, yeah, I don't know, this is probably shit, and it was great. And just like honestly, VHS Massacre 1, VHS Massacre 2, 2 in particular, your stuff comes up a lot on social media, people liking just your take on exploitation film era, and then also just when you're shitting on Blockbuster, people find that highly entertaining.
I fucking hate Blockbuster. I still hate them.
That stuff. But when I
hold up, did you ever tell the story about why I hate Blockbuster so much?
I did in a Q&A, but please feel free to tell that story again.
The reason I don't want people to think I'm just like randomly hating on companies just for no reason. It was, oddly enough, after working out with a bunch of my boys, we were basically practicing martial arts. We came from the dojo, and this was like when Blockbuster was still big. So we always, after we worked out, sometimes we would hang out and like watch old martial arts films. So we drove up to one in Yonkers and rented. It was like late night. It was me, and I'm probably the shortest one out of the dudes who I was with. And I'm 6'2".
You're like 6'2", yeah, probably 6'3" with shoes on, right?
Right. I'm like the shortest one there. So we walk in and we go down to the Blockbuster, and we're basically looking in the martial arts section for like B movies to rent and kind of like just check out. We come upstairs from, because they had the martial arts stuff downstairs. We come upstairs and there's like 8 cops waiting in Blockbuster for us. And it's like clearly they're like tapping their,
Billy
their
clubs
nightsticks.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. And I'm sitting there praying that they don't put any hands on one of the guys who I was with, who had an issue with cops from years ago and actually wound up getting arrested for fighting off 30 of them. So he was like
Whoa.
legit. And Diesel, and I'm playing like, please don't let them put their hands on Sensei. Don't, because I was like, we can't just stand there and let him get jumped. Anyway, so they had called the cops on us because they said we look suspicious. They were looking around the store, and to which I responded to the cops, what the fuck are you supposed to do in a video store but look around for movies to rent? So we had gone outside, and as soon as we got in my car to drive home, they surrounded us, checked everybody's ID, and I was just so pissed off because I was like, what did we do at Blockbuster that made y'all that nervous? I know we're like 4 big black dudes, but I'm like, I came there to rent movies. I'd been there. I'd gone there multiple times. They had seen me. So
Yeah.
it's clear y'all had my ID. Y'all knew who I was.
Yeah.
Why would you call the cops on us? I was ready to sue them. And then my lawyer was just like, this is back before like, George Floyd and stuff like that. She was just like, just let it go. That's your black tax is what she essentially said.
Wow.
After that, I boycotted Blockbuster. There's nothing that you could, I don't care what, I was done with Blockbuster. When they went under, when they went on, and I called their corporate office to complain about, I'm a loyal customer. They were like, well, you did look suspicious. We've gotten notification from them. And I was just like, yo, I hope y'all go belly up. And they did. And I was sitting there. I still waved the flag on that. I walked past where Blockbuster used to be and laugh. I'm sorry. I'm a petty evil person.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, that's a crazy story, man.
I'm so glad the cops didn't touch him though, because I'd have been in jail or shot. We'd have been on the news because Sensei was a little off.
Certain personalities just don't like, I've seen people like that who just will not take cannot tolerate disrespect, and that's it. So that's crazy. Anyway, yeah, that story is like, it's funny the way you tell it, but that's terrible. So I definitely understand.
Screw Blockbuster. Fuck Blockbuster.
We hit upon Blockbuster a little bit and video stores in the doc a bit. But I really appreciated one of the great things is in your video, you had a really concise way of using Bruce Lee to kind of summarize the introduction of martial arts in the United States. But you literally do it within like a minute or two, which I thought was excellent. But you say something like Bruce Lee died during the promotion of Enter the Dragon, and so the main figure in the movement
was
in
gone.
the United States was gone, but that opened the door for people to try to make movies of their own, and that concise sort of passage opens the door to the entire doc. So this stuff really is it's your stuff is really important to the legitimacy of the doc. And so
I don't think people that. if you're not like over 50, I don't think people really appreciate like what an impact it was when Enter the Dragon, that first big martial art movie, really hit. Western audiences hadn't seen anything like that before. Legit stuff. They'd seen like some stuff with, like the James Bond, like chopping people in the neck, but they didn't really see someone who was terrifying with it. And as soon as it came out, he was gone. So there was like this huge rush of people kind of trying to move into that space, but none of them had his, there were some who were maybe as good as him in terms of, technical skill, but none of them had like the charisma, the technical skill, and just the attitude, just that whole. So it was, for me, it was a happy time and also a very sad time, because it was a very long time before we saw anybody even approaching that level of, not skill, but that level of like just imagery
Yeah,
that he had.
charisma. The camera loved him. He was a believable actor, but that had the people also talk about the Asian mysticism, and maybe that's a problematic way to talk about it now. But like at the time, there definitely was a certain amount of mystery to it because we just didn't know. I mean, Ed Parker came in, and we had karate and stuff like that, but there's still a lot we didn't know at the time. Like people, I think, take for granted how much more the average American knows about the world now, that it wasn't quite the same in the 70s.
It was a great time. I was talking to my boy Randall, who's Asian, and for him, it was a great time to be Asian because everybody was scared of Asian dudes after that. He says any type of confrontation, and Randall was not really a martial artist. Randall would just go, ooh, like this, and people was like, yo, leave him alone, he know karate.
Yeah, that's how I survived in high school. I used to get bullied a lot, and
Yeah.
so I took martial arts, and by the end of in high school, a senior, I think I was just under brown belt. I was the green belt,
Mm.
and people would leave me alone. So it definitely helped. We're talking about some of the other martial artists, like Van Damme. It was interesting because he also super good looking guy, gifted martial artist, jacked. Um, Again, the acting, like his acting wasn't that good, but the camera absolutely loved him. He had the charisma, and he was right on that bubble, like him, and like people like Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't in the martial arts, but thick accent acting was okay. But I think taking even just a half step down, like so someone like Billy Blanks or Cynthia Rothrock had absolutely highest pedigree of like professional martial arts, world champions. I think Billy Blanks was an Olympic champion. I think Cynthia Rothrock won at least 5 world champions, weapons experts.
Weapons, kata, whole nine. She was no joke. And she was just cute.
Yeah,
She was.
like, yeah, like the female version of Van Damme. She's beautiful, so like uh but I would say that the acting wasn't on a lot of these North American pictures. So the acting wasn't the highest priority. It was definitely taken down a notch, but people were willing to go for it because of the obsession with the technicality of martial arts and things like that. So I thought that was interesting, and I think we found on surface those films are not profound, but if you think about them enough, they have contributions to society.
I mean, they were entertaining for what they were and for that particular point in time. Watching them now, we kind of like we kind of crap on them now, but back then that's really what we had. We didn't have like CGI, so you didn't have like the special effects to really kind of like enhance the martial arts. They weren't the greatest actors, but the issues that I've always had is that the storyline, and this is what all filmmakers, if the plots are strong enough to justify the action, that's really all you need. Because the first person who I saw who really made me think that after Bruce Lee's death, that I thought was possibly a real replacement for him was Jet Li. And Jet Li, when he was in, what is it, the
Just a
Mel Gibson.
legend.
No,
Oh,
well, no, they even
Lethal Weapon 4, yeah.
Lethal Weapon 4. When that was the first time where is somebody who had that same type of charisma on screen, that same type of badassery that you really thought like, oh, like he looks legit.
Menacing, yeah.
And the way it was shot, the camera angles, a lot of people don't know how to shoot martial arts or action scenes. Perfect example of this, if you look at like the first Batman Begins, or even the Dark Knight, the action scenes that they had were just like the first Batman Begins. It's like it's all in shadow or really quick cuts, so you don't
Yeah.
really even see any of the techniques. Um, and a lot of times, a lot of directors who have never shot action films kind of resort to that or shoot the action from bad angles or from ways that don't really make the artists look good.
Yeah, it tipped the hand of some of the speed and things like that. And
See, that's the thing I always had with Van Damme movies. It's like, yeah, you can throw nice kicks, but it's just, all he would do the split in every movie. He would, kick three or four people. And it's like nobody's gonna stand there and wait for you to kick them in the face. Just you know,
yeah,
people crap on Steven Seagal because
yeah,
all of his movies had three words: out for justice, marked for death, above the law.
yeah, yeah.
Um, he was the first one that actually I was like, well, who came in with a different martial arts style, who had people really hyped. Um, um,
He was
and
he was terrifying. And you said that specifically about Scar. He was terrifying, especially the team around him. From what I understand, they looked at what he could do, and they really built the movies around his very specific skill set. Because I'm
right.
sure maybe you could tell the audience about
If
Aikido.
you've ever seen him kick, he can't kick. I mean, his kicks look horrible, like on film. But Aikido's not a kicking art. It's basically kind of redirecting somebody's energy. It's about, and if you've seen like Aikido practitioners before Steven Seagal, it was all about just kind of flipping or restraining people. He was the first one on film, at least, to show you like breaking people's limbs, you know, uh, like snapping arms and
Yeah,
wrists and stuff. It,
really
it was
nasty
like
stuff.
really nasty. And Aikido, for the way it's always been portrayed up to that point, was like, it's a very gentle art. It's about restraining somebody, redirecting their energy. And he was like, no, you can fuck some people up with this.
I to some degree I can get it because at least when they show, they'll show a demonstration and Seagal will be in there, he'll do a wrist move and the guy will flip over. And they say, well, the guy's flipping over because he's trying to preserve his wrist and his limbs and stuff. So I think, right, the theory is that in the movie, they don't do that. And so he really is breaking these wrists, he's breaking these elbows and stuff like that. So it
it's one
definitely
it's
is.
one art that it was one art that I never got any good at.
You know,
I tried.
wasn't it specifically for defending against weaponry? Like I thought,
Yeah,
like
it is. It is. But the thing that always kind of caught me about it's very technical, and this is why a lot of people talk about like, and there's people who do like what they call combat aikido now, where it's more like hand deflections and like it's a lot of joint manipulation, but not so much like the flips that we've seen. Because trying to get someone into those positions in full action or someone who knows how to fight, it's difficult.
yeah,
So
like the
there's a lot of people.
concept of they're going to give you that momentum. Like if it's a wrestler, they're not coming in that way; they're shooting on you, so that's not
Right.
going to happen the same way probably. So you'd have to kind of have someone running in pretty fast at you.
And you can't miss. It's if you're talking about like the joint manipulations and stuff like that, very few people are gonna come in fast enough or give you enough time to actually do a very technical move like that on someone. And I'm sure there's gonna be martial artists who disagree with me, but there's a reason why you don't see a lot of Aikido masters in like the UFC and other combat areas. Um, it works for retention, but not so much for like I would say pure combat. And I know that somebody's gonna,
Well,
meet me at my
you did say that I mean you had said that there's different forms of Aikido and if it's a modern Aikido training they're working other stuff in. I just heard this interview with this martial artist they're talking about like why someone said why doesn't Kenpo karate do well in MMA? And this guy he talked about two guys, like one, I think the guy's Wonder Boy and a few other. He said that it's not really true. Most of the modern martial arts um training have updated. So whether you're talking about Tiger Schulman or even Kempo Karate, they've all updated to MMA. Most of them have, and then it's a lot of it's about conditioning. Like if you have a high, even if you're just a wrestler, if you're a high conditioned wrestler, you have a chance at winning. If you're a high conditioned karate expert, you have
A lot of these arts have been modified for modern times. Um, Brazilian jiu-jitsu modified over the years to deal with different, aspects. Um, a lot of different styles have changed significantly from when they initially were introduced because people move, react, different styles are now different. Um, so these are all things that happen naturally over time. Um, so I'm, it's essentially an evolving thing. Like Wing Chun, for example, a lot of people, didn't like it or talk crap about it. Bruce, that was one of the I believe that was the form that Bruce Lee initially started with. But he saw certain limitations in it. And if you'll see in Enter the Dragon and other martial arts films that he's in, over time he started to introduce other, especially in Enter the Dragon, he introduced in the very first fight where he flips, and it's Sammo Hung who he's fighting in that very first fight. He flips him and then puts him in I believe it's a not a wrist lock, but
armbar or something. Or?
An armbar. Thank you. He puts him in an armbar and holds him. And you didn't usually see that a lot in a lot of karate aspects. It was usually more just straight striking, not taking someone down to the ground and putting them in an armbar. So he was one of the first, I think, who essentially started to see the benefit of integrating other forms of martial arts into his overall, I would call him the father of MMA if I could.
Yeah, well, Nate, he also took a lot of shit for it, like serious
big
heat.
Time. Big time.
And
big
some
time.
people say, I don't want to say was cursed by it, but that he took serious cultural heat for disclosing some of that stuff or changing things. Hey, I wanted to ask you if you're comfortable talking about it. Tell me about some of your belts, some of your martial arts training, because I don't think I ever asked you like what belts you hold and stuff like that. I never got into it. That stuff's kind of fun for me to hear about.
The one over there, that's the only one that I formally display. It's the only one that I train for extensively. It's a modified form of Shotokan, Shotokan karate, and that's what I started with. And those were the guys I was training with when I was at Blockbuster. I got my first degree black belt in that. Over the years, I've done Krav Maga, Wing Chun. I've dabbled with Aikido. Judo was the first martial art that I really started with. And I got a brown belt in Judo. But that was like when I was 16, 17 years old. And I haven't really trained significantly in it since then. And the one time I did, I blew my knee out. That was, I went with some dudes, was training with them, hadn't done certain moves in years and was feeling good. I threw one of the higher belts and like that old man stuff kind of kicks in, that ego kicks in. I was like, I was like 52. I was like, oh, I threw this 19-year-old kid pretty good, And then all of a sudden, like I just went for a foot sweep and my quad tendon snap. That old age just kind of kicked in. So I mean, my background is fairly eclectic. I wouldn't call myself a master by any stretch of the imagination in any of these arts, even the one that I have a first degree black belt in. But I've stayed fairly active. The other thing is that belts are like opinions. It's pretty easy for people to have them. And I never really trained specifically to get a certain belt. I wanted to it was more practical for me. I wanted to make sure I was able to handle myself if something went down. Because, I grew up in, you know, 1980s, 1970s New York City, when it was way more dangerous than it is now, even now. So you wanted to basically be able to handle yourself if anything kind of popped off. When's your next documentary? What are you working on next? If
Oh
I might be
yeah.
so bold to ask.
Well, look, if this one does well, I'll do American Expendables too. I don't. I'm that'll be fun. Working on something called Video Dreams. That's a little autobiographical. I think you'll pop up in there, but I don't know. It's a lot of archive footage. Um, but yeah, I always got something cooking. So I'll definitely
Good.
definitely call you up. You know, it's always great to have you part of them, and like every time like people talk about your segments, and they're always a highlight. And so yeah, we actually might have an Anthology Film Archives screening of American Expendables come up. That might come up in October. You got to come to that, and if you're around, if you're stateside.
If I'm around, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks very much,
great to
and
see you.
yeah, great to see you.